Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Beyond the Summit's English coverage of the Mars Dota 2 Space League. We have Invictus Gaming versus Vici Gaming in our lower bracket round one matchup right now. We're about to hop into game number 2. I got Jack and Gods right back by my side yet again. Here we go, gentlemen. First game, though, takes nearly 70 minutes for IG to be able to close it out. The resilience of Vici's base defense and all their wombo combo ultis made it just so darn tough for IG to be able to close it out, but they finally do. So now we're curious to see how the drafting is going to go. I heard you talking about it a bit. Would you say that was it just IG put together a bit of a weaker draft for themselves, and that's why it just made it that much harder for them to kind of close things out? Or
yeah, I feel like at first I was like, yeah, this could be a 2-0. IG looked a lot better, but then I was like, wait a second, that draft with like a single core life stealer didn't work at all, and then they were like, oh, let's just farm for the late game with Midas, Puck, Midas, Enigma, while we have got this single core lifesteal that isn't going to scale well. So I think draft was the biggest issue.
Yeah, you never want to really draft yourself into a corner, especially if you're playing like teams of like comparable skill level, or at least at this tier of Dota, where it's like, oh, we have like one win condition, one out, and we have to meet that timing or we basically can't win. That's just very hard to execute because the other team knows exactly what you're up to and they know how to play against it. So it was tough for them, but still like a pretty stalwart resistance. I think there are some promising signs from that. Like they managed to, both teams made mistakes here and there, but their ability to defend the high ground, to coordinate some of their ults, and be able to make it like a competitive game and hold on for that long. I think that's an encouraging sign for them going forward. And somebody pointed out that if IG had managed to somehow throw that game or lose that game, it would be hugely tilty for them. And so it's you kind of see like why IG might have been struggling a little bit recently as well. Like I think this was a very solid draft for them, but whether there's hesitation in finishing the game or some of the decisions, you can see that there's room for improvement and growth there as well as they take this heading into TI. So.
why would you think there'd be like hesitation for decision making on a team like IG? Is it not that Burning's making all the calls? Is it someone else making the calls and then they're kind of like, is this okay, Emperor Burning, if we do this? And there's just kind of hesitation there. You would think that when they have the potential guidance of such a veteran that there wouldn't be too much hesitation, or do you think there's just something more going on to IG that we don't know about?
Well, for Q is probably the most vocal player on the team. Like he does a lot of the drafting decisions, and he's like a veteran captain himself. Obviously, the runner-up with the CDEC, and that we consider that like a veteran at this point. Like he was a new blood just a couple years ago, but with that great finish. So, in terms of that, in terms of Burning, like he's not like extremely loud like Yelly type, but later on in the game he does take control of things, and they do listen to that as well. So I wouldn't say that there's like a communication issue there, but at the same time there's a lot of pressures with this team. Like with their great showing at DC, they became like kind of the flag bearer of Chinese hopes for a little bit. There's very high pressure and expectations on them. Anytime you play with Burning or on his team as well, that's definitely going to be the case. Mm-hmm. So sometimes with that mentality, you're less prone to making risky plays or making mistakes because you'll just get a lot of flack for it. And so I think they tend towards being a little bit safer in some of these decisions, like finishing the game, like finding opportunities to win. It's kind of like let's not lose this game. Let's maintain what we have, rather than let's find a way to just seize this game, by the throat and just finish it off. But I think in that last game that we just saw, like that's a pretty reliable way to approach it. I think just because like they probably feel they had a draft advantage too. So it was like, what's the rush? Let's just take it one step at a time.
I don't think there are any points, for me at least, like 20 minutes onwards, that I felt like IG were going to lose. Like it always felt like they were heavy favorites to win and close out the game. As slow as it maybe became, as kind of methodical as it kind of turned into, and as much as there were mistakes and really great high ground defenses, every time there was a high ground defense, I was never like, ooh, game on, Vici Gaming, they're kind of even. It was more like, well,
10 more minutes.
Well,
let's see how let's see how the next high ground defense goes, because you keep defending high ground. They defended high ground good 10, 12, 13,
yeah, you
14
made it
times.
to level 4 on your tower defense game.
Yeah, but
cool.
at what point are you actually pushing forward and taking Roshan, attacking the enemy high ground? They were only defending high ground, so you can't just do that.
We used many analogies that game, including the Alamo, but to use one from American football, I don't think VG crossed the 50-yard line or midfield for like the latter half of the game, right? So it was a tough one for them, but
they had some good red zone defense, though, is what we're saying.
Yeah. They kept them out of the end zone for a long time.
Yeah. We were missing a player there briefly, but it looks like we got them back in the lobby now. So hopefully we'll be starting soon. I wanted to go a bit more into what you were saying. Before we hop back to the panel here, we were tuning into the main MDL stream where they had Chinese Weatherman Purge. You can see a little bit of it up there, probably. Jack, you were saying, though, that they don't like this guy so much. So they have multiple Weathermen that they've been using. What makes for a good Chinese Weatherman?
The guy that the most popular received one, 5400, was a former professional player. I think he played on Newbies Tier 2 team. So I think people like that background and the way that he explained everything very well, like to the draft. Not so much that they don't like this guy, but this guy hasn't done as much of it, so they're kind of like grooming him and getting him to do that as well. So one step at a time, but they've embraced the Weatherman technology. But in terms of actually being a caster, this guy's been around longer and really made for a name for himself, Lao Dang, from way back in the day.
It's Chinese LD.
There's a meme about this. Oh, well, Chinese LD is another guy named Hai Tao, but this guy's been
Chinese
around
LD
for a long time.
he's Lao Dang, like for the initials.
Well, there's a meme about this guy that all the Chinese have. It's hard for me to translate it without perhaps being a little inappropriate, but basically he's dating another like female caster who's like very well known, very popular in the scene, and all the people wanted her to be with some other caster, but he ended up coming in and kind of swooping that away, and so the fans jokingly make fun of him for that. It's like, damn, this guy, he stole her away from the other guy who deserved it, I guess. So
did the other guy even care about the girl at all? Was he just
no?
Is it like the
really.
Bulldog Shiva OD Pixel love triangle then? Would that be the Western equivalent?
You could go there, I guess. The other guy actually, he was at he's also one of the most famous Chinese casting duos. He's the guy. He's DC. So I don't know if you've seen him, but he's this guy with like glasses and like wears like these like a philosopher type of dude.
He looks badass. Yeah.
Yeah. He was at DAC. So the joke is that guy's like forever alone and like his true love was taken away by this dude.
Slick back hair.
Yeah, and the glasses.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. I see him everywhere.
And some of these interviews I saw them playing just now. There's one with Maybe, where we talked about kind of they're wanting to change up like their training regimens and stuff because the Chinese team house environment, like it can get very tough and pressurized. Like you're going through the same thing every day. You're living with the same people. The personal space in terms of being grinded down, like that could be an issue for them. And that's why you could see maybe like Chinese teams starting to fall off a little bit around mid-year. So maybe was talking about how they wanted to switch things up a little bit, or maybe take more of a Western approach where it's like you boot camp hard, but the rest of the time you're playing more pubs. Yeah. So it's interesting to see how they'll adapt to that, or if they start pioneering that a little bit. And that team, actually, LGD, is going to move away from Shanghai, where every other team is. They're going to move to a different city nearby called Hangzhou for a little bit. That's where their offices are. So
you think they'll take that Western approach? Maybe
a little bit, at least some parts of it. I think they start to see the value in that because if you've been to a Chinese team house, like it's like they all live together. They have like the same cook and nanny, and it's like the same thing every day. And then they play so many official matches throughout the year. Like you're talking about, like sometimes they're playing for 4 different tournaments at the same time, plus a qualifier, and then they have practice at night and scrims. It's like it's hard to just stay fresh and like keep that going seriously.
Yep.
So,
or fiddling around without PCs as you're having connection issues.
We have tried to connect 2 different times now to this game, and it has failed. So that's why you see.
I'm stuck on establishing connection. One of you's in the lobby, another had like an error message. Who knows
what is happening on your computer?
I don't know.
Oh my god.
Am I even in the lobby? I'm still in the lobby apparently.
Vici Gaming still finding a way to stall this out.
Who knows?
We're gonna play Vici Gaming for this.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah.
No.
Well, they are connected to the a bit to the company that's hosted to Mars TV, so maybe there's something to that conspiracy.
Get my
theory.
tinfoil hat over here somewhere.
I think it's interesting the model because I feel like we're at a point where teams and players do need their personal space to kind of be able to have that separation. Like I know, like from BTS's perspective, like we used to live and work at the same house, and like it just changes things. So you have much better lifestyle once we have a proper studio, we have a proper offices. I'm interested to see when even like Western teams, like they boot camp, they maybe live together for a small period, but we never see teams who like commute to work. Like let's say the Chinese teams keep their office in their boot camp, but they live at home or have their own places separately from that, or even the Western teams too. I feel like that doesn't exist so much.
Yeah, it's like that's the model that they've had for like esports. Like everyone's together. It's the Korean model basically as well. Yep. They're all together. They're sleeping in the same room often, or like 2 to a room, and so maybe the standards for personal space are a bit less, or they start to get used to that, but you would expect that for most people they're just kind of at each other's throats after a while, or it's just hard to keep that communication without other things getting in there. And then from a bigger picture perspective, like you see differences between how they play in China versus say like from NA or something else, where it's just a lot more structured. Like even the pub games are very structured. They follow that template basically every game. So you learn to like maximize your efficiencies within that playstyle. Versus for a Westerner, I think if you're playing on NA or Europe, you end up pubbing, you play your own heroes. You find these like small efficiencies, and you have to find like very weird ways of winning games sometimes. Like you can't just play within the team and expect everybody to play a team game.
Yeah.
A lot of times you can't do that to win, and that that could be a good source of innovation that's very important for Western teams. So maybe for Chinese teams, they start to see that as well, and they want to start to emphasize that.
Okay, kind of curious to hear. Looks like we have got a new lobby, at least that some of us are in. I'm still finding my game coordinator.
Yeah, I'm in our new lobby. The players are slowly getting back into it again. We'll get everyone together and just hope to God it loads and works this time. Not Parker, though. His machine is fudged up.
Who knows? Who knows? Might restart.
Yeah, that'll be for the better. All right, so do we know yet the order for tomorrow at all, as far as are we going to be doing upper bracket first at all?
I think we start with lower bracket, so we'll have the 2 matches from round 2. So EG versus OG, and then loser of this versus... Oh, sorry, winner of this versus whoever lost the other, so against Newbie, because Newbie also lost. So, and then we have that winner bracket final, which is the LGD versus LGD. Jack can fill us in with his... He can save his Chinese memes that he had about them for
teddy
tomorrow.
bears or whatever.
Yeah,
going
his
on
story about
I'll get to the teddy bear. The LGD Civil War is at 5 local time tomorrow. So it looks like we have OG and EG at 10. And the next series is going to be Newbie and the winner of this. So 2 lower brackets going first, and then the LGD Civil War.
And then we'll have the 2 winners from the lower bracket face off as the last match of the day, I imagine.
That is correct, at 8:30 local time. So after tomorrow, we will have determined the 3 last teams standing.
Yep.
Uh-oh. Do you not make it in over there?
I'm still not even connected to the game coordinator, so that's all good.
I just got into a draft.
Well,
so
that's good news, I guess, for...
Are you all going to be
for us?
vaccine off me? Oh, no, Jack got in,
I
too.
I'll use Jack's computer. We're good.
All right. So we have our draft. Woo! We are underway. I'm actually curious to see if IG felt anything from Vici Gaming side was too threatening last game, or maybe they don't even want to be put in that kind of situation again. First phase of bans doesn't seem to reveal that kind of case. They're just getting rid of still all that meta crap.
Yep. The Void's been in the other bit. We mentioned it during our first year of the day. It's kind of been the meta hero of this tournament, at least. It's suddenly become a top 2 pick, so won't be seeing any of that. Do we get to see a Nyx Assassin this time around? Something newish.
That's fun. Jack, how come these teams just don't play Wisp, man? Not since like old LGD with MMY.
Yeah, I think it's kind of been an issue. I think that
They just don't like it.
It's just such a strategically valuable hero that, and then like if they have to ban it all the time against say EG or somebody else, and they don't play it themselves. But a lot of teams, like especially if if you're thinking about like a newbie or something like that, it's just too unreliable of a hero in a lot of sense. Like there's too much in terms of details, in terms of like what the hero does, that makes it a bit of an unreliable choice, and that's they tend to go away from that.
Yeah, maybe in their hands, I guess. I don't know. It seems like they put themselves into a bit of a drafting disadvantage when they do get those matchups where they're going against an EG or an MP or any of those teams that have like the Western teams, especially, who have those IO capabilities. But
the same with like something like a Meepo, like it's very individual, skill based. There are a lot of very high skill cap hero, and maybe they think it's a bit unreliable. They don't have somebody who can play it well. Also, just in general, I think Chinese teams tend more towards team fight than these kind of like, say, more split push or ratty type of playstyles. And what Meepo does is Meepo kind of forces you to take team fights, because you can't really split push against them, then you just get picked off and you die. So if you're going to play that style anyway, and that's how the Chinese teams play, why would you have to play a Meepo to force that? Like, that's most likely the way they're going to tend towards anyway.
Yeah.
So it could just be kind of like a regional preference type of thing.
You could see like all sorts of sides of that argument too. Because then the unfortunate thing is, like, how often do they get to practice against a Meepo at home? No one's going to be on the level of like a Abed or Weeha or any of that stuff. But here we will not see a Meepo. We will not see a Wisp. We will not see any of that stuff. We have Phoenix picked up second here for Vici Gaming after IG move into a Shadow Shaman commitment. They're going to get the Boboka Kunkka once again. But now they get a little bit more ways to push and pressure with the benefit of having these wards. So passing over the options like Q's Warlock in the previous game to bank on something like this Shaman.
Yeah, I think maybe just a change of pace for them, because I don't think there was any. I mean, there was some maybe issues sieging high ground, which is where this Shadow Shaman gives them something the Warlock did not offer, whereas the Warlock gave them more team fight. They perhaps felt, hey, we had enough team fight, we just need something to help break high ground with. And if you had Serpent Wards there to go with the Troll and the TA, you can't really jump on that Troll and TA as much if you are doing so into those Serpent Wards.
Rob is just having way too much fun back there right now. Every time I look at the screen, he's doing something.
I saw the screen shift, but only from the corner of my eye, so I'm not sure what it was.
Like, we're getting like really tired. It's like I look over, I'm like, is that my eyebrow?
Yeah,
on
did
the
that actually
monitor?
happen? It's the MDL thing fading in and out, I guess.
Reminds me of the Red Bull on stage, the unbelievable.
Yeah, it's like some of that stuff just happens to work out so well, and here I just look like an idiot. I don't know what the hell's happening. Second phase of bans. TA's got to go. Bristleborg also going to be taken out. And there we go, Enigma. Screw you and your black holes. IG will get rid of the heavy team fighter here.
Yeah, let's see what the plan's going to be. I think for IG, it's like that Enigma is just so annoying. The threat of the black hole more so than the hole itself, but it meant they couldn't use the Warlock Rock in fights. It also means you kind of have to draft into a hero that can cancel it, like having the Warlock, which they're not going to have from the support, so they'd need it out of like an offlaner. They're just going to have to not worry about it this game.
They also have fairly good kill potential coming out from their supports, so maybe you don't want to end up against an offlaner who's either very difficult to kill or can pull the wave back, because that feels like it marginalizes your supports a little bit. It forces them to roam. So being able to do that, take something out of the pool that they play against, especially showing their supports early.
All right, IG now going to be revealing a little bit more here. Again, we're going to be seeing the support staff come out and then just right on in forward into an Earthshaker, this time in the hands of IG. But, XXS Earthshaker?
Yep, he is the Shaker Master.
I like that. I like that a lot. That's a bit closer to the Magnus style of play than the Bat Rider was. So I like that. Big dunk edge action here. Good setup and initiation play. Doesn't help with breaking the egg a whole lot though. So Kunkka and Earthshaker might have a hard time getting in on some egg cracking.
They have plenty of control there. You could see something like, once again, like the Troll being selected, Lifestealer up against the Nyx Assassin, as well as like the Phoenix, and to pair with all their controls. So those are all possibilities for them.
Third pick for Vici Gaming is going to be the Sven here as their man fighter. So no CK, straight to Sven.
Good hero to kind of just jump in with the egg and kind of act as a buffer, just start forcing a fight with it. Huh.
It can be a tough core to play against the heroes of IG though, because typically Svens now, they don't get that BKB early on. They usually want to get it like third or fourth item, and then if you don't have BKB against them, if we're talking about Fissure, if we're talking about plenty of disable and lockdown from IG, like being able to go in and deal that damage is an issue for them. So there's the Troll to deal with the Phoenix Egg.
Yeah.
And also, like at some point again with the control, can man fight the Sven, or at least keep him from doing. So you have the whirling axes too, and so again, it's hard for the Sven to really be able to deal damage unless there's a really clean initiation. And if you look at Phoenix and Nyx, they don't really provide that. The Phoenix wants to dive in usually if someone else is initiated and drop that egg, but he doesn't immediately lock anybody down or hold anyone in place. The Nyx is a bit more of a skill shot. So.
Vici Gaming going to go for that stable mid laner, kind of putting together more of a 5-man composition. They've got the Sven. I think this is kind of like you mentioned, maybe a game where because of stuff like the Whirling Axes, Sven, even though he normally goes for the third, fourth item BKB, may have to prioritize it higher because they want to fight earlier. And the pace that we saw last game from IG was something that Vici Gaming did not deal well with.
Yeah, it also gives them like a tried and true objective taker. This is a hero that's been very popular on some teams, like a LFY, like kind of picking like a tankier mid laner who also helps you take objectives. So they're worried maybe a little bit less about roaming on him. He's a bit easier to protect, and he can obviously take objectives in front line as well with the Sven. So it's a pretty potent duo right now.
Curious what they'll get to put up against this DK though in the mid lane. Could benefit from the Troll Warlord. I mean, you can get down and dirty and pick up a, I don't know, Viper or something like that if you really want to be able to kite around Sven and DK and add damage into the Phoenix Egg.
I'm not sure that I've seen IG play this, but I wonder if also like a Necrophos or something would be a possible pick for them. I'm not sure if it really fits what they've wanted to do, but I just think in terms of the meaty cores, in terms of not having like a great answer to him, I think it's a possibility for them in the mid lane.
Like that Razor ban. Razor would have been a nice pick for IG. Good lane dominator would definitely have taken it to DK and been able to kind of swing it out in these fights. VG Gaming are going to have the final say here for their off-lane grab. What is the Yang hero going to be?
Tidehunter maybe? Big team, if they want to full on for the team fight, it's definitely a possibility. Otherwise, we'll see. Could always run the Nyx off lane, grab another support, but I think we're seeing mostly that 4-position roaming Nyx.
I think Tide would be a good choice. He does offer that that like initial control or initiation to like that the Phoenix synergizes with, and then as you mentioned, like he's a bit harder to kill with perhaps the Troll there.
He's
Kraken Shell making him worry a little bit less about that early kill potential.
Yeah, he's not getting chain disable. In a mid game, he's going to get Ravage off, not get chain disable in theory, unless it's like a Silver Edge.
We'll see if that's the path they go down or not. Does Tide offer enough though, as far as like if there's going to be more push coming their way? Let's say IG get some sort of pushing mid laner and then pair that with Shadow Shaman. No,
different direction.
Nyx off lane.
It's an NA Dota offlane Enchantress, maybe.
Could be.
No, likely
unlikely.
to be the Nyx offlane 4-position Enchantress, I'd imagine.
IG going with Medusa potentially as well, but yeah, back to the Enchantress.
Yeah, don't know. It seems kind of good. Some squishy supports are not that mobile like Shaman that you can kind of bully with this. You can pressure the Trolls lane. I quite like it. It's something different, something more aggressive, more early game focus, which is something they just kind of didn't have last game. And also there's damage output. I feel that was a big issue last game. You know, it's like, well, this Earthshaker Rubik support you. How are they actually going to roam around and kill people? They don't do damage.
They can also get fairly early push timings going as well with the Enchantress, whether it's dropping behind towers, so bringing those creeps early on to take objectives. And we've seen VG kind of tend towards that a little bit. Like they seem to put some pressures on themselves to end games early with their lineups or take objectives early. I think we've seen that pretty consistently throughout this tournament. So this is an interesting pick that is a little bit unusual, at least for them in this position, but can accomplish those objectives that we've seen.
So IG's last pick, probably the mid laner, although Troll can theoretically match up fine against DK, so there is that flexibility to grab a safe lane hero if they prefer.
That would be intriguing.
It's going to be a Weaver. I was just wondering, like, what kind of heroes are there that don't get ganked easily by an Ench? And Weaver definitely fits that category. You try and send creeps and gank the safe lane, and it's a Weaver, well, he just shakoochies away. You haven't got a disable reliably to stop that from happening.
Okay, so it is going to be OP on Troll to match up against the DK in the mid lane. Is that pretty heavily favored for the Troll, enough so that DK might need some help from, I don't know, I guess Enchantress would have to roll in, Phoenix would have to roll in? I mean, what do you think about that mid lane setup?
I don't think so. I think once DK is a few levels up, he's not really worried about the Troll killing him. Even with rotation, I think it's a little bit light on damage. I think he should be okay, like even with minimal assistance from his teammates. I don't think the DK is too worried about that lane.
Yeah, he'll get out farmed in theory in a full-on 1v1, but I think a lot of Enchantresses will send that first creep to the mid lane just to harass. They won't actually gank it. It'll just be like, let's send a Tornado creep there or a Shockwave and just Shockwave 3, 4, 5 times. And then with your second and third creep, you go and gank the off lane, for example. Or you gank the mid lane. It's that first creep to harass, second, third creep to actually find a kill kind of philosophy that a lot of Enchantress players follow that we may see this game. Or maybe FY does something completely different. Who knows? I think the unpredictability of Enchantress is one of her biggest strength. You never know if she's ganking, harassing, or just farm. Like, theoretically, you can just farm if you want to as well.
Definitely feels like a pick they took advantage of because they had FY on their team for sure. I don't know why I'm getting that hunch from it, but I'm curious to see what FY does decide to do with it as we get into action, gentlemen. This could be our last game of the day. Not if VG Gaming have anything to say about it. They would love to push this to a game 3 before we take some rest and head into some more MDL action tomorrow. We'll see which team is going to be staying alive here. IG, of course, already with that long-fought Game 1 victory. We'll see if they can do it again. Already the TPs are out. FY is taking it to the jungle. This time he's got wards in hand. He will see if he just straight up blocks the camp. No, he's just going to provide some vision. And block.
There we go.
Nice little pullback there. He'll head up and above, and Yang and Ori and company will kind of be over on the other side. Meanwhile, Amy has spotted out some IG company here, and Baboka is actually not going to find the Tor connection. So Phoenix gets a little bit of insight, walks on out, and it looks like IG were able to get one little off-lane ward here. So they'll see End hanging out. Double mango for End. So stacking the regen and having the mana burst just in case he needs to Stormhammer out of trouble, I guess, or Stormhammer into a kill.
That's some new style of build coming out, kind of.
Yeah, I don't see that very often.
Same time, it's like, you're Sven, what else do you really need? You're against the Shaker off lane is one of those off lanes you know as a safe lane carry you're going to free farm against with any small amount of support. Shaker does not really pressure or have much kill potential unless he gets like a, I mean, 1v1 with against a melee hero, sure, but with the Phoenix there, he should be having an easy time.
The battle begins.
And of course that will leave Burning on his Weaver to hang out on the bottom with Captain Q on his Shadow Shaman. So, how do you think Yang's going to be faring on his Nyx Assassin in the off lane? You do have the quite powerful Shadow Shaman with his 74 base damage coming at you, but he's got some regen.
All the more damage to Carapace, I guess.
Okay, fair enough.
No, not so much the case. But I think he should do quite well. He's got the wards for vision, for blocking the pull camp. He's got a poor man shield, and he's going to likely have some Enchantress support later on. So I think if he can just get enough out of this first 2 to 3 minutes, while he waits for the Enchantress to kind of prime that gank, then you're looking good.
Yeah, I think he should be okay. He's got good armor and pretty good regen, and they have to be careful about committing too hard to try and kill him because that Enchantress can come through and with the creep and just very quickly pick off the kind of slow and lumbering Shadow Shaman, so they do have to be careful about that. But at the same time, though, and they have that ward to kind of help protect him with the Kunkka coming in, is also a serious kill threat. So I think ideally he wants to play this so that he, well, I think he just made a fatal mistake right there. It was in 3-man carry pace, and that will just barely be able to prevent first blood. So
dang.
I like what he did there because he has to play this in a way that doesn't make it too obvious where the ward is. Like if he just backs off after seeing the Kunkka, they know there's a ward. They want to get some value out of that and then stop them from pulling as well. So
got a full creep wave at his tower now as a reward, so this is really nice. This is exactly what he wants. The first 2-3 minutes, the creep actually comes to his lane to help him out. See top lane.
Yeah, for XXS, and leading with the Stormhammer, the long Sunray burn does some work, but not enough to get the finish. So both offlaners under some heavy pressure, but survive it.
Yep.
And our mid lane matchup is looking pretty neck and neck. 10-4, 10-3 right now. Oh.
I think the scarier thing is the Nyx getting those levels, because this means when the Enchantress does theoretically rotate, there's really high kill potential. Whereas Shaker, if he's getting sent out of this lane, it's not like there's going to be an early rotation up top to kill the Sven or a Phoenix. But if you could have zoned this Nyx level 1, it means that Enchantress gank isn't that scary because it's just a level 1 Impale, but now it's like a level 2 Impale, potentially level 2 Carapace. The more levels Nyx gets, the scary that gank is going to be.
This Enchantress, though, is smoked and heading to the other side of the map. This one could be not suspected at all by IG. Baboka is waiting right behind XXS, who looks like a very weak and wounded target. So here come the creeps of FY here to kind of scout things out a bit. Now they make their move in with the Stormhammer. That should be more than enough to be able to get the finish. Baboka does show himself to land the Torrent, but obviously can't offer any additional assistance for his Earthshaker friend. So good, successful first lane approach of FY in the top lane.
Now, worth noting that XSS did not take any points in Fissure, so there was no block like that at the beginning, no way to try and potentially seal off terrain and defend himself from these wraparound ganks. You have to assume that FY is going to kind of go for these on the Enchantress, wrapping around whether it's the off lane or the mid, and he can do that from the safety of high ground as well, just because of the way the Radiant jungle is. So I think Dire probably would favor Enchantress a little bit more, as a bit more of a threat profile. And then look, he can access, as a Dire, he can access these two Radiant camps from the same level of terrain or from high ground even. Whereas if he's playing Enchantress on Radiant, he has to go onto the high ground to find those camps for the Dire. And for this neutral area here. So the Enchantress does have some advantages there, being played on the Dire against Radiant.
Well, we'll see where the next move in rotation goes. Looks like he's maybe just going to grab another couple of creeps before heading out once again. The lane's overall fairly stable for both sides, despite the first blood being given up in that off lane. The cores that are meant to be farming are on both sides. The off lane is both getting a little bit out of their lanes, and no towers being too heavily pressured just yet.
OP turning back to his lane now. Baboka had stepped away in the meantime from that top lane position to get some a little bit of soul XP, I guess, as OP steps out for the rune. But now Baboka can make his return possibly back to this top lane, just in case, because Amy's now shifted in, and this Phoenix is going to get a little annoying to the backside of XXS. But we're not going to be seeing a whole lot of early kill potential across these lanes. It's pretty much on, you know, maybe for Vici's side, wherever FY decides to poke his head in. Oh, but bottom lane, they might have gotten the upper hand onto Yang. His Carapace, though, is going to get triggered, and with the rotation coming in from Amy and that Sunray, it might be enough, but oh, Yang, again, barely able to live just by one little precious right click.
Whew. Got the beat of gold, too. Value. But yeah, he is really pushing his hero to the limit in this offlane. Some great offlane play. Now has the Shrine too, so he's not even out of this lane. And Burning had to commit a decent amount of his health and mana to go for that one. Does have Tango, Salve's Clarity, so he's not going to be out of the lane by any means. But Nyx getting his levels. That's always what you want to see and do as a Nyx in an offlane.
Alright, let's see how mid's faring. As the levels were coming together, I was curious to see if the DK was going to be able to take over at some point. Still hanging in there though, 36 on the Troll to DK's 30. And we know DK to be one to really reside his way into this mid lane, plant himself here, maybe even hope the Troll just steps away and that he can open up onto the tier 1 tower. But what is OP's objective going to be as the Troll? Does he hang here opposite to the DK all during that while, or is he going to be more proactive about taking fights?
May look to group up when Shaman's 6, so you've got Serpent Wards plus Troll. You're a pretty strong pushing force, but it doesn't really feel like there's easy rotations for him. Barring like a good, like, I mean, Kunkka has some initiation potential with the X Torrent as a setup, so maybe that's what they'll look for, a few more levels on Kunkka.
Dragon Tail in onto OP as his haste does expire. Amy flies out from the trees, coming in with the Sunray and the Icarus dive. OP dishes out the Whirling Axis. He's trying to run. The miss chances are there. They're working out. But eventually the burn is just a bit too strong, and Ori will be able to get the finish. But Bogo was close by, but doesn't have any hard commitment over to help out.
This Phoenix has been quite surprisingly effective in this early game. The pressure at top, the rotation mid. I feel like not often you see this Phoenix do a whole lot at early levels, but what we're seeing out of Amy has definitely been more than what most Phoenixes achieve in the early game.
Yeah, and even though it feels like he's moving around a little bit, he's got some decent levels for 7 minutes in. X pull back possibly for Yang, and that leads to the fissure block in. Opie can chop away safely from a distance here, but Vici have plenty of the posse still around to be able to safely escort him out.
Yeah, and the troll is kind of in a difficult place at this point. Like, he really wants items and wants to farm. He doesn't really want to be fighting at this point. There's not a whole lot that he brings, except maybe an ult to the table, even with those added levels. So I was thinking there's a possibility that he'd maybe go into the jungle a little bit more and free up his supports to get some experience, because they do need experience. And Kunkka's level 4 right now, and same with Shadow Shaman wanting to get up those wards as soon as possible. Since they didn't have that pole camp bottom to pull from, that's even of more paramount importance for them to get up their XP.
Good heads up there from Q. Tried to go for the rune, but Yang stunned him, took the haste rune, and since the stun was already committed, he was forced to TP away.
Vici reaches strong point when they get this Nyx level 6 with his arcane boots. Maybe by the, it's more the arcane boots. I mean, he'll have level 6 for sure. He may even need like level 7. But arcane boots is really when you have the mana to be a lot more active and start moving around the map.
What would you like to see them put the heavier attention on with this Vendetta? Keep pressuring the troll area in that mid lane, or is it, head towards Weaver? You might have to hold that thought though. They've committed into that middle lane without OP there. A hard push in for Baboka, but now OP stepped in. They're going to be able to take out Amy on that Phoenix. The Dragon hard committed, and Ori gonna get surrounded and finished off. Burning steps in with a double kill as he steps out from that bottom lane.
Yeah, nice rotation. Weaver, something Weaver can do that the Sven can't really do, or at least doesn't want to do, is TP in and make some plays early on with his mobility, guaranteeing that you're not just TPing in and not getting kills. You can chase down and clean up very effectively.
Yeah, so they did end up rotating the troll to the jungle a little bit and try to give Bobacat some experience. VG saw this and were like, hey, we could just bully this guy and run at him. But a timely rotation there from Burning, and as a carry player, like having a sense of timing, knowing when to come to fights where you can clean up, and when it's like good use of your time versus just losing out on farm or taking a risky fight. Burning definitely made the right decision there.
XXS should be dead for sure here, but a nice torrents there, and he manages to get the dunk off, allows him to turn it around and get the takedown at least onto fellow offlaner Yang.
Yeah, was gonna say that very likely the Earthshaker would be a targeted focus for the Nyx. Obviously, Burning is a little bit more difficult to kill. The mid lane is also hard for it to be in a position where there's both no counter vision and where you can get a clean initiation onto somebody without help coming in from the tower. So with that in mind, the offlane seems like a natural choice. You want to slow down that Earthshaker to begin with from his blink, and then you want to make him feel more threatened and be afraid to come up to the wave. Maybe even force him to the jungle as well, which would restrict a lot of space. So good choice there, but excellent play there by XXX, salvaging a kill before he goes down.
Yep. Just a bit short on the firepower from Vici's side to be able to get that clean finish. Plus it helps that Baboka was nearby with the good torrent to give him that little bit of extra breathing room. And they still rally behind XXS even now, maybe just trying to apply some pressure on this tier 1.
Serpent wards, they're up. Yeah, that creep wave gave him the level 6, so.
Very nice. Now Yang is creeping in from behind with the Vendetta already out. A TP's coming in under the tower. And Sven also is walking into action. This time they should be able to get the swifter finish onto XXS. The rest of IG have already waddled away from the trouble. It's about a 4-man commitment to the top lane. That leaves FY all alone. That means that Baboka can move in, hit him up with the X, and allow Emperor Burning to be able to clean him up. But FY has TP'd away. They don't have any additional stuns because of the X being used, and FY makes it out.
Q did get the tower last hit at top. He had like 2 or 3 Serpent wards left there while they'll clean them up, and he managed to get the last hit despite that.
Nice.
So while
I think it was like the final Serpent ward that he had, right?
Just watching it, yeah, I was rewatching it in Dota TV. 10 seconds delay, I was like, dang, he actually got that. It was a good hold if you clean up those Serpent wards, but not getting the tower deny, I think, makes it a pretty even trade up top.
And even now, as Vici are heavily pressuring this top tier 1, there's light defense from IG, but they're, still getting plenty across the other parts of the map. OG, or OP rather, working his way through the mid lane. get some hits onto that tier 1 tower, and Burning is still down here, firing his way forward. He's got about 1,300 gold. And trying to see if I get a hint from what he's going to be building up to early. See, a straight to Lincoln's kind of a game.
On the Weaver, Lincoln's is okay, not essential this game.
Oh, he walks in, goes for the dunk, but the egg comes out. XXS is able to get the fissure off, and they're trying to burst through Yang. They will be able to bring him down. Both offlaners are dropped. Amy, after popping out from the egg, will be able to TP home. But again, they will manage to prolong this Blink Dagger on the Earthshaker.
Yeah, he had a decent laning stage, but since then it's consecutive deaths for this Earthshaker. And Burning getting very involved.
They rotated everyone over, actually, from IG. You didn't notice that even Burning was trying to get up there. This means the bottom lanes open up, and Ori just takes the last hit on the tower.
It does look like Burning's going a Diffusal. Maybe not as his first item, but that Robe of the Magi is like a... You're going to get a Diffusal at some point. I think he decides whether it's after the Lincolns or before it, or even just, get a Lincolns. We'll have to wait and see.
Orange Spirit. He's fine. Dances his way back to the fountain, while Vici already moving on to the next tower. A tier 2 suddenly in this bottom lane with God Strength and the Dragon form. They have plenty of demolition power, but here comes IG rolling in. They got the fissure. The right clicks are poking out from Burning as he puts his focus onto end. FY dealing with his own little critter. But it looks like Vici will be able to safely get the hell out.
Yeah, this early push, these bruises in the front lines, DK and Sven are so hard to fight into. DK's already tanky with a lot of armor. He gets Warcry as well. Troll and Weaver do hardly any damage, and their magic damage is not really all that present here. The Earthshaker Blink will maybe change that a bit, but until that point, the magic damage actually going to a Sven or a DK is definitely a lacking point of this IG draft.
Back to taking tier 1s here. They have the wards up onto Q, so to the mid lane they go.
That's a big part about this Diffusal on Weaver, is it's going to act as a way to get rid of the Warcry.
There go the wards. Can Vici somehow bring them down? Ooh, a pullback into those wards, into a Torrent setup. But the wards are going to stay committed onto the tower here. Sven looks to go onto Q here. Q turns around, just gets the simple shackles onto that Sven. Will allow for the easy setup onto those wards. And suddenly 2 are going to be dropped from Vici's side. This should allow them to clear out the tier 1 without too much trouble, but still, Vici linger around. FY tries to go in for the deny. Will he pay the price for it? No. It looks like XXS has mercy.
Yeah, the Troll Pick versus the Phoenix Egg working out for them. And just a good initiation using this Kunkka, punishing the fact Sven does not have any kind of a BKB magic resistance. Once he's caught, he is well and truly caught. The Kunkka acting as one of the decent sources of magic damage at this point with that Ghost Ship initiation.
Yeah, there you see some of the issues with the Sven. Like, he's not going to have BKB at this point, and they don't have the best control for him to be able to deal that damage. So in that fight, he turns on ult, goes Mask of Madness, gets disabled by 3 different disables, and I think he took like 2 steps forward for like the last like 10 seconds of that fight, and there was just nothing he could do at that point. And then the Enchantress doesn't really solve that problem either. Like, their lineup isn't really equipped to solve that problem. Maybe the DK goes in on somebody and the Sven can follow up, but it's just hard for him to be able to express himself, so to speak. So
time to farm me some stacks, though, if you're end. Couldn't quite get the final stack in there at the end, but we'll get a nice chunk of money here for what looks like the Blink Dagger. He's hoping to just jump over the haters, over the fissure and all that magic, and just get the job done right away.
He's quite underfarmed for Sven. He hasn't had stacks until that point there. He's been brought in to push and take objectives, of which Invictus Gaming have done a good job pressuring towers, but the balance hasn't been right. You ideally want to be farming your stack and then grouping up. You need to kind of do a bit of both. In this game, it feels like he's been fighting and pushing while not farming at all in the jungle and getting those stacks going.
Speaking of Black King Bar, is one almost in the hands of OP here. He's simply missing out on the recipe. Has a double stack of Ancients to help him get there that much faster. And then we could see IG hit a nice power stride. Like how I said power stride instead of power peak. I'm trying to change it up a bit.
Nice.
I don't think it works though.
Power
Power stride, is that a thing? It's like an Olympic event probably.
Power stride, yeah. Yeah, it sounds more like a way of
aerobics, maybe. Here they come through this top lane, though. Does Vici Gaming? IG are slowly positioning themselves up and over. They know that they can take a more confident team fight here, especially now that XXS has that sweet blink dagger. But he may have been spotted.
what is the plan.
Oh, a jump for the bird. Oh, and they deny him the Icarus dive with the dunk. Is he still going to be able to fly away? No, he's not. Oh, he got the egg off, though. He's dead for sure. All right, well, it's a dunk for a Phoenix.
Yeah, it's not really that important of a cooldown to lose at this stage. I think Vici Gaming are at a farming point now where they've had a few okay successful pushes and fights, but they need to complete this Sven BKB, so having no Supernova isn't going to likely be punished or matter too much, and by the time Phoenix respawns, it's only going to be a minute away. I think this game has slowed down, and that is, to me, more concerning for Vici Gaming. They're going to struggle to deal with the Weaver as far as their carries being kited around. The Troll, same thing. He may even be more as a ranged troll until the Sven gets on top going melee form. He can kind of kite them as necessary.
What? Yang, I didn't even see how he slid over there, but he found his way closer to the team, but they are persistent on getting a hold of that little beetle. They'll finally be able to bring him down. Ooh, good fissure. Connects on 2-3. They're looking at FY, though. While, look at this, a deeper commitment from Burning, looking to square up onto Ori while the rest of the team going to be dealing with that Enchantress back and behind. Still can't quite get a hold of her, but there's the X, there's the Torrent, there's the finish. 2 go down from Vici Gaming side as IG strut their stuff through the bottom half of the map. And they're going to be moving on in for a tier 2. They do have the wards here. I don't know if they feel it's necessary for Q to commit them rather at this point.
Maybe just want to get a tower, get back, be more efficient so you can go back to farming.
Yeah, he's not going to use the wards here.
For now. With the Troll, they still push decently fast.
Yep. And there they go in on it. Vici are just farming in the meantime.
Yep.
Working with it if they can.
May consider Roche soon. I think IG have established really good map control, taken a lot of these towers, gotten some decent vision up as well. They can grab an Aegis early on. They've put themselves in a fine position.
I think that's really kind of the crux of VG strategy. They want to be able to run at you and keep you down a little bit early. The Sven does have late game options and farming efficiency, but the Enchantress is very good at taking Roshan, and so if they're not able to get Roshan or get these pushes going early, the game changes quite a bit. And right now it's IG that's actually in the pit with the Serpent Wards and the Troll, so this is something that VG cannot simply accept.
IG are doing it. Vici, though, had that vision. They make their move in. Nice stun connection there, but OP's going to pop out that new BKB and begins to go to work on a Yang. But XXS steps in, gets a good dunk, and in trouble right in front of Roche. Burning beating him down, the Ward's beating him down, and eventually he will just fall. A 1-for-1 trade. Yang going to be next as he gets dropped right between those trees. A dive in from AB, committing with the egg. OP looks to turn to the egg and try to crack it, but Ori's dishing out the damage and helps him get the finish onto that troll. The egg will pop, the stun is there. XXS is in a lot of trouble, and he goes down 2. It's just Q and Burning now alive, fighting out the 3. Q's going to get latched up next. And he's going to sacrifice himself to create the space for Burning to be able to make it out. Vici Gaming hold the Roche pit area.
Wow. That looked like a fight. I mean, IG definitely winning the fight at the start there. They kill the Sven. They punish the fact they have BKB and he doesn't. So Sven has to engage to stop Roche going down, but as long as Earthshaker's not getting caught, he's going to blink Echo and kill that Sven. But it's the ensuing fight, once the Troll's BKB wore off, IG still, they had this mentality that, hey, Sven's dead, we win this fight, but they actually are not as strong as they thought they are. When that Enchantress is sitting back throwing impetuses, the egg goes down with a DK stun to kind of support it. IG just overcommitted to trying to kill a Supernova egg that they weren't really in fighting shape to bring down.
IG are not letting this Roche go, though. They get right back at it.
They don't have much downtime in their draft. I mean, the Echo's cooldown is something, but I think the Supernova is the more important cooldown. And they also know the Sven BKB isn't up. So as long as Sven doesn't have BKB, Vici Gaming are only sort of ready to contest this.
All Vici have been able to kind of force IG to step off a bit, though, as they move their way through this mid lane. A smoke, though, popped. Nyx illusions nearby.
Once they lose that sentry, they know life gets more dangerous in the pit.
Oh, that sentry just out of range. Centaur's creeping in, but Vici Gaming are further north, waiting around. Do IG just decide to walk into the pit? No, they're gonna go back towards the mid lane and push it out from there. Meanwhile, Amy alone with his Midas. Split pushing bird.
Once again, maybe that level 15, pretty amazing talent that Phoenix gets. Well, either way, he's got the best level 15 talents in the game.
Lots of money or some good fire spirit DPS.
The next major goal point for VG is going to be these BKBs. They've kind of rushed them a little bit, maybe on the DK and Sven. And as soon as they get that, there's not really anything in the way of dealing with BKB in terms of being able to control or kite VG's heroes once that's up. So that's going to be a very crucial timing for them to kind of deathball. So the Aegis is great for IG in terms of being able to, you know, if they get that, to be able to forestall that. If not, I could see VG with BKBs heading over to the Roche pit to be able to secure that Aegis and push off of it, because you're still at a point where when those BKBs come online, the Troll and the Weaver don't have that much damage. So that's like kind of a weak point for IG, so they have to be careful of that.
And they really had a lot of respect there. They didn't want to move in at all while Sven didn't complete his BKB. Now Sven has the BKB, and VG are just kind of taking over this area, and IG have been lingering around, just farming the camps, waiting. But now, here comes VG, taking things over. IG have been able to kind of wiggle out through the other side, so it looks like they've avoided and dodged.
Yeah, going for that Aegis feels a heck of a lot better if they manage to get a pick off on the Earthshaker first, and they have to be kind of careful not to really commit to that here.
Oh, so they go back and they farm through the jungle, and will probably take themselves out through the lanes here. IG will be a bit more comfortable once they start seeing them show themselves. But now IG have smoked it, seeing that this could be the chance. VG are also there with their own smoke. Oh, there's the move in. BKBs go out and go flying. A hard hit for Q, but Q gets the force staff, heads out the other side.
Well, that's not good for VG.
Fire Soul in. Ward's now committed right in front of the pit. It's a lot of pressure onto Yang. He gets his own force staff. Now the Aegor are going to be committed, but that helps him get the finish onto Q. Q, though, had already committed his wards, so it might be okay for IG. IG are trying to use better positioning, hiding up towards the high ground, but Yang gets him with a good two-man stun. OP, a lot of damage. A backline dunk comes out, almost gets the finish onto Amy, but can't quite get it done. Meanwhile, they will get the finish, Burning with a double as he finishes off Yang. Gets the bug kill, too. On the other side, waltzes his way right through FY, securing a Sakuchi kill, making it a triple. Things just kind of falling all together for IG on the back end of that.
They used those BKBs and didn't do enough damage. They kind of got kited around by IG. They still managed to kill like some supports, and then once those BKBs are down, IG just used their high ground advantage. They have a 4v5 fight, but with positioning advantage, with a good Earthshaker initiation, they still managed to win the fight. Just barely, though. If that Enchantress got that Force Staff and Petasoff into the Troll and finished the kill off, it could have been a very different story.
Not done yet, though. Another BKB could be up and ready here for End. And he's hoping he can get to that pit before the Roche goes down. The timing might be that they've already caught someone on the back inside, and they're going to get the quick finish onto Baboka. OG moves in, grabs the Aegis, pops his BKB, looks to turn onto End, but the Fisher's kind of blocking him in a bit. End is going to be able to move on over and get that takedown of Q. Now Vici scramble, running out through the pit, trying to get a hold of anyone they can from Invictus Gaming side, but it looks like they've been able to make it away.
Very back and forth game, but I think also a little bit sloppy from both sides. The teamfight execution, the way these fights are going down is definitely not crisp with the initiations. More so on VG's side. You're the ones with the BKB initiations. You should be able to just blink in with the Sven, get that quick kill, and then kind of disengage. There's only one Force Staff to worry about. There's a Lincoln's on the Weaver, so you can't really go on Weaver, but you don't really want to anyways.
Yeah, that was maybe a bit, again, like safe safe and sound on the approach, like on that BKB. Like they came in with BKBs immediately, and maybe it was not the right time for it, but it basically signaled to IG, hey, you've got to back off right now. They ended up not really losing anything. I think only the Shadow Shaman died for until the BKBs wore off, and that makes the rest of the fight very easy to take if you're IG. So that's one of those things where maybe if you're so worried about the counter initiation being right there, maybe only one guy goes in first with BKB, or either to draw the attention before you figure out where the other core is, and then you bring in the Sven or the DK to kind of also counter initiate and get damaged on. If you both jump in like that, you've got to get more off that initial wave of initiation.
And you're kind of right. They kind of have to BKB because otherwise the Shaker may just blink echo them and they don't get a chance to use them.
Baboka walking in with the X. They try to catch him on his X on the way back out, and they found a good opening possibly to get the jump onto IG. They take out both supports once again, but it's OP moving in onto end, going through another BKB charge. He's going to be forced to step off. Now it's focused onto Ori between both Burning and OP. They tag team him down. Now XXS moves in with a dunk, and it will help him get the finish. Burning now godlike on his Weaver. Aegis now going to be popped there onto OP as Vici make their escape.
Burning's playing incredibly well this game. He's... I do not want to see Burning on the off lane. ROTK is the right idea. Listen to the man. Burning needs to be playing carry. Just look at these games. Look at when IG's... I mean, this isn't perfect played IG game by any means, but if you look at Burning's individual play, he is carried
just feels
through and
right.
through. Yeah.
Just feels
He's avoided
right.
danger. He's picked his spots. He's made very timely rotations exactly when you need to.
It's like Michael Jordan going to play baseball or whatever.
Yeah.
Just stick with basketball, man.
I like that
That's what you
example.
do.
That's a very extreme example, but I like that. I think that would be more if Burning went to play League of Legends or something.
That's fair enough. Maybe just Michael Jordan doing golf. We'll see.
That'd be like Michael Jordan playing like a different position in basketball. Like, all right, he's like, I'm going to play center now. Yeah.
But,
like,
in his prime, he probably could, Tier 2 goes down, and IG, that's all they're cool with that. We got our Tier 2. Let's peace out, guys. Back off, farm, get the lanes back, push forward again. We're winning the game now.
It's good use of the Aegis to force that fight up top. They took the last out of tower now after the Tier 2 top, Tier 2 mid. They're definitely scaling pretty well. This game could get tricky, though, as time goes on. The Sven with another item or two. FY, his Enchantress is getting pretty scary. If he gets an Ag Scepter, I think he becomes an actual damage threat to both Troll, less so the Weaver, but the Troll is kind of the front-lining BKB carry that may have to worry about those impetuses.
I think, though, for IG, they're in pretty good shape because they've made it through, like, the danger period or that first danger period of this game, I think. So they got the Aegis. That was a checkbox. The BKBs, they weathered that storm. They didn't give up too many kills at once or objectives, and now the BKB durations start to go down. And that puts pressure on VG because they have, without the immunity, their heroes just get controlled and kited to pieces. So I think VG, again, has, put themselves in a pretty tough spot.
Yeah, Sven has been chewing through this BK bet like it's nobody's business, down to 7 seconds already. I saw him fire through at least the 3 of those charges so fast. Twice for that Roche pit, situation. Oh, look at this. A sentry conveniently in the mid lane spots out poor Yang, and he just gets deleted. And FY could be next. Little Enchantress.
Oh, just a
shot.
Sven.
There's the dunk on the Sven as well. It couldn't go any better for IG here. Running into action right now is going to be OPL, golden and glory as ever. He just chomps down the Sven like that. Does have a buyback, but he's looking to slay some dragons here. Burning's moving in. OP's trying his best to just fend them off, but the chase is on. XXS will be able to blink in now. Hits him with the stun. Don't do this to my dragon. The egg will be committed. Can they pop the egg? Yes. They'll get the dragon too. It's a slow and incredibly painful 5-man wipe from VG.
And they've got creeps on the high ground. Convenient.
That was just, oh god, that was just all falling into place all too well there for IG. Congratulations, IG. You are moving on into the next round, just like that.
When your run at the melee cores are BKBing and running the opposite direction, that's when things have not gone well for you. So, yeah. I mean,
Wow, that was a sudden end to our night.
A day of 2 O's, gentlemen. Every game today was a 2-0, even down there to the end.
Hopefully not a recurring trend tomorrow, but we'll see.
Yep. Woo, okay. First things first, VG Gaming, see you later. No, but let's, To be honest, this was the team that I knew the least about coming into this event. At least with like Clutch Gamers, we got to see them in multiple qualifiers. But I'm curious, your take about Vici Gaming, now that we got to see them play here in MDL, got to see them play through the round robin, play the best teams out there, play teams that are still trying to make their way up through a Tier 3, Tier 2 kind of situation. What do you think is in store for Vici Gaming's future?
They've got some promising young players. I think it feels like through this tournament they modeled themselves almost a little bit after Liquid. They wanted to take these very early wins and be very aggressive. A couple of details that need to be handled in that regard for them to look more like Liquid, the strong team that they are at this point. But you look at the roster, Ori, basically a new player who came up to Tier 1 only this year, right after WESG. So a few months on basically a Tier 1 team. And is still very young. I think he's in his I think he's like 21 or 20. He's already got plenty of experience under his belt. I think like with the right leadership, he can really play very well. He's shown some very consistent performances throughout the years. HYM, or aka Amy, also kind of an up and coming player. I think this team has a lot of promise. Yang obviously was their most reliable rock last year, I would say, in the offline. So they have the talent, but as with last year, the team, you do need leadership as well. Somebody who's vocal, somebody who directs things. You saw them win that LAN with Mikasa, who came in and clearly wasn't a top tier mechanical player anymore. So that's something that Vici Gaming can look forward to if they want to keep this roster, this core of players together for next year.
Yeah, that's I think the big thing to remember is this is a team that was newly put together. This isn't the Vici Gaming that played together during the TI7 qualifiers. Chuan and Hao stepped aside. They brought in FY. As well as End, brought back in End, and I think maybe they're looking for some of that kind of experience and veteranship in FY, but at the same time, you kind of mentioned he's not the most vocal player, and I think that's maybe something they kind of need, is that kind of vocal voice to lead them and to be that clear captain, giving them maybe a more sense of purpose, but definitely agree that this is a team with a lot of potential moving forward. We'll have to see if this is the roster they end up on, though. Of course, this seemed more like a trial thing for them. It's like, well, we qualify for this tournament, or I think they were like there was going to be a European qualifier, and then they didn't end up having one, and they were kind of the team that got the slot. So it seems like hey, we may as well field a roster. Let's see how it goes, and then move on from there.
Yeah, very talented kids and players, and I'm sure we'll be seeing a lot of them again in the future. Invictus Gaming, they're the winners, though. Congratulations to them. They move into the next round. Parker, what's the bracket update? Who does this mean that they face now?
They face Newbie.
They face Newbie.
How do you think, Jack, as far as the Newbie IG, these guys have been kind of the two top teams in China, I think, if you look at the last 6 months as far as overall results. They were the two direct invites. Do you think either of those teams kind of has an edge over the other normally?
It's kind of interesting because you have LGD facing LFY and then you have Newbie facing IG. So for the second half of the year, last few months, the two LGD teams have been the most consistent in China and kind of looked as the great Chinese hopes for TI. But Newbie and IG were holding down the fort earlier in the year. Newbie throughout the year pretty consistent, and IG with that one brief stretch. So fans are going to look forward to that. And IG, I mean, with a lot of attention and maybe controversy surrounding the roster change. What's it going to be? Who's going to play what position, rather, the roster shuffle.
Yeah.
And they look pretty good today against Vici, but they'll be put to test against Newbie tomorrow for sure.
Yeah. That is fun because you get the two LGD teams squaring up who've looked like the better teams recently, like you're saying. You have the two TI invite Chinese teams, and you have the two top Western teams also going against each other tomorrow. So
it's kind of a battle of the battle who to represent LGD, who to represent the West, and then who to represent China's elite status, I guess.
It's so neat, actually. It's all neatly put together for us. Perfect.
And then after that, they cross-pollinate, I guess.
Yeah, after that, we get to see, who's
going to be cursed going into TI, probably.
We get to see whether the odd year curse will continue or not. Maybe.
But we are done for today's coverage. Thank goodness we are getting into about 7 a.m. local time on our ridiculous shift. And tomorrow we'll be leading in with, you said, the lower bracket first, correct?
OGEG will kick off the day, so.
And that will be with the first crew of LD, Merlini, and Lumi, I'd imagine. They'll probably cover another 2 best-of-3s. We'll hop in for another 2 best-of-3s. We'll just do it again tomorrow with more awesome Dota. Sound good, guys?
Sounds great.
Awesome.
I'm down.
That's Gods, that's Jack, I'm Dakota. We'll see you tomorrow for more Beyond the Summits coverage of the 2 Mars Dota League Championship Space Odyssey. See you then.